South Africa in its pre-colonial time was agrarian. In its early colonial days was agrarian until the minerals, diamonds and gold were discovered.
An economy that has been stuck for a very long time in a low growth trap.
You know, we were once the mining capital of the world. We did a lot of manufacturing over the years of sanctions and isolation.
15 years of zero growth trap and an industrial landscape that is moribund. I'm Adrian, Saville, professor in economics, finance and strategy at GIBS, in conversation about fate, luck and choice with Nick Binedell.
Hi everybody, I'm Nick and I lecture in strategy, strategic leadership and geopolitics, and we've had some wonderful conversations.
Nick, some rather bad luck or maybe poor choices that determine our fate of an economy that has been stuck for a very long time in a low growth trap, an economy that has struggled to achieve much more than 1% economic growth and well below population growth, so that our per capita incomes in 2025 are lower than per capita incomes in 2010, 15 years of zero growth trap, and an industrial landscape that is moribund. You're hard pressed to find examples of industries that would be aspirational or inspiring. The South African economy, the South African industry, where do we go?
It's a great question, Adrian. You know, we were once the mining capital of the world. Yeah. We did a lot of manufacturing over the years of sanctions and isolation and our own just general industrial skills. And now, I mean, it's not a tragedy, it's a good thing, in some ways a bad thing in others. Financial services are our biggest sector. So, you know, what does that do? It cycles money around, makes some investments, but it's not generative at the moment. Two industries that I think do stand out a bit is agriculture and automobiles, the motor industry.
Yes.
And I thought I'd share a few thoughts about those. They both have quite distinctive histories, of course. You know, South Africa in its pre-colonial time was agrarian. In its early colonial days was agrarian until the minerals, diamonds and gold were discovered. So it has a long, long history of agriculture, both subsistence farming, but also commercial farming. I think of the wool out of Eastern Cape. I think of, you know, the fruits and maize of the Free State and the fruits of Mpumalanga, KZN, the Western Cape. We've done extremely well.
More recently, the leather going into
car seats.
You know, car seats. Maybe the agri and the...
There you are. The leather.
Meet each other.
Yeah, a friend of mine ran the Leather Research Institute that worked on the car seats. But here's the point, is that agriculture has proven to be a champion. And commercial farming, South Africa's rated not in volume, but in terms of quality in the top 5 in the world for its abilities. And we've hosted at GIBS a number of discussions over the years about land and expropriation, in which I got to understand a bit of the farming community and agriculture as an industry, Agri-SA and the government, the department, etc. The numbers are quite extraordinary. We are a big exporter, mainly of citrus, deciduous and other fruits, but many other odd things. I think we're the number 5, number 1 in the world for macadamia nuts.
Yep.
We export 40% of the world's grapefruits. And in citrus, we're number 2 in the world to Spain, which is right near its major markets. There are 800,000 jobs in the agricultural industry, and our total GDP is $110 billion out of $400 billion. It's a very, very big part of our economy, both domestically and for exports.
Our common friend and associate on this ground, Wandile Sihlobo, speaks in very animated ways
about
this industry. Do we have here a hidden champion?
What it is so interesting is it has not much to do with government. So whereas the auto industry I'm going to talk about has had a lot to do with government, the agri has developed this way to become a champion, create all these jobs, earn all this foreign currency, not without, it had marketing boards in the old government, but it's deregulated itself, but it's kept some form of organization. And so it's a very successful story.
So to stay with the analogy of the hidden champion, are we punching way below?
Oh, way above. I mean, there are other countries that compete, Chile, for example, Aussie, but we do really well in agriculture, commercial farming.
What needs to happen for this to be just stand out, for it to play a part in a powerful transformation? Is that possible?
We could double our citrus production and exports if the ports work.
Yes. Okay.
So we're getting them to work slowly.
Yeah.
I've talked to people recently. They're saying it's getting better, but you've got to make it get much better. And then we're going to employ another 400,000 people in this industry. Now, one of the problems in agriculture, as we all know, is low wages. And of course, we've got to make subsistence farming commercially viable. Many people have tried to do that in dairy and other areas. There's a long, long way to go until we're Ethiopian, where you can run a family in 5 hectares. But it's coming. It may come over time. But what we've got to do is make sure we keep the top mega farmers viable. And I think they've done extremely well. There's nothing to complain about. Yes, all farmers always complain because it doesn't rain. But structurally, farming is a great business to be in.
Joe Studwell does a fascinating piece of work. He does a comparative or a matched study looking at Asian economic transformation.
Right.
And goes in search of the things that are common to Asian economies that transform very successfully. Agriculture is center stage in all of those.
Sure. Rice.
Japan, South Korea, Taiwan. Agriculture has played a central role, perhaps more recently, Vietnam. And it starts with individualization of property rights, the industrialization of agriculture, freeing people from farm to factory.
Sure. And politically in those countries, including South Africa, you better look after your farmers. Yeah. So let me move to auto just for a minute, and then we can open up the discussion. So South Africa's had a long history of, because there was a small colonial elite, 1930s, the cars were here, and Ford parked in Port Elizabeth, Capita, because it was the closest port, East London later, Durban, of course, Toyota, and then the Pretoria area. But we have, I was looking at the numbers, we have 54 brands of car on sale in South Africa. And we have 8 OEM manufacturers here. Australia does not produce a car. So this was industrial policy. And it was the thinking from the 50s and 60s of the state-owned enterprise of Iscor and Eskom that really played a role in building up the potential to make cars. And then it was industrial policy. I'll tell you a story. When I was a young executive, 23, I got given a BMW as a company car. And everybody had company cars. Why? The government persuaded the business community to give lower salary increases. We were fighting inflation. And the one escape clause was company car schemes. And in my time, in my 20s, everybody had a company car. That got embedded into our culture. You are your car. And we spend completely disproportionate.
Policy choice.
Yep. Completely disproportionate. I remember the shock of going to Seattle and finding people had bloody ordinary cars. It was amazing. We had
they didn't have BMW.
Yeah, you were your car. No, exactly.
Yeah.
So there's a long history of industrial policy, of export credits, of Atlantic diesel engine, which was started by the IDC,
on the West Coast.
which fell over later and then got reorganized. And it's a major, major job creator. I'm just having a look at our numbers here. We export 15 times more cars than we did in 1995. 15 times more. It's one of our major foreign currency earners and has been part of our foreign policy. It employs 110,000 people. And then there's the components industry that's grown up over time. We export components, and of course we put components into the car manufacturers. When I went to Toyota in Japan the first time, I had a little aha. They don't make cars, they assemble parts. That's what car makers do. So your component industry is a secondary industry where we've built industrial capacity, and we produce 670 billion rands of components a year. So it's a major, major industry.
But is this a redwood? Thinking of industrial forestry, we've got this one incredibly tall, successful example,
and
sheltered behind an import substituting industrialization policy.
Correct.
Almost 100 years of this.
Correct. And especially in the last 40 years, where there's always been a development plan. There's the new one to 2030, double the car output, I think, to 2 million. Government and the industry and the players have been in alignment. And it's a bit like SAA. You know how much SAA was subsidized? I once worked out that when I flew, a third of my ticket was paid by the taxpayer. And nobody else knew that, but that's what subsidies do. So in that case, it was a waste of money. In this case, a very good investment. And we've kept them. What I want to end on this thing with is now what's happening is the Chinese. So if you remember, we had the Americans and the Europeans, BMW, Mercedes, and GM, Ford. Then came the Japanese. Then came the Koreans. Now have come the Indians,
and the Chinese.
And now I think up to 17% of our motor sales are Chinese. And the Great Wall, you know the names, Chery, Haval, all these companies, and they are pretty good quality at a lower price. And I don't know if there's an industrial policy attached to this. What I'm very nervous for is our long-standing manufacturers. Can they survive this kind of storm? And in a tariff world, it makes it much tougher.
Nick, thanks for a great conversation.